I've seen this before. Who is that?
It's the guy.
What guy?
You know, the guy we were trying to get to do Nazi stuff. You know, come on, do Nazi stuff.
Oh, yeah. Still haven't been able to get him to do Nazi stuff.
No, but we keep trying.
Look out for Charlie.
I wonder if he'd be willing to do just a little bit of Nazi stuff. Rats.
Alright, I'm way backed up on videos. I have so much that I want to go over, and I'm like literally getting behind and behind and behind, and there were things that I wanted to talk about before that I haven't talked about. So I'm just going to start with what I want to get out now. So you're going to have to put on your tracking helmet for this one and really track what I'm talking about from point A to point B. Before we do that though, I want to point something out to you that's pretty important. On November 16th, 2023, I put out a video called The Weaponization of the Fringe, Coaxing a Naive Rabbit Out of Its Poisoned Hole. And what that has to do with is the trans agenda, what's going on, and how the government has a history of experimenting on people. And it has to do with how GMOs, frequencies, and a lot of this stuff could have to do with people, their hormones, and questioning their sexuality. All that stuff, right? Well, right after I put out that video, like right afterwards, something happened. Now, right after I put out that video, right afterwards, let's see, it would be January, so like, you know, a couple months afterward, Blair White put out a video that uses almost the exact same terminology and everything. I'm just going to play a clip of it.
The psyop of the poisoning that they get in your head, they hypnotize you. Look at the pesticides. When you really wake up to how we are poisoned intentionally every single day by the people running the show, right? You look at the food supply, you look at the air quality, you look at the pesticides, and my whole thing is, there are studies that back it up. There are studies that back it up, babe.
But anyway, it was a pretty big coincidence that this is going on right after I made videos about this. I think I've made 2 or 3 videos about this, but that was the latest one. At one point in my video, I even say that, you know, if I was one of these people, these trans people, I would want to know who was doing this to me and poisoning me and turning me into this. And at another point in this video with Blair White, she says the identical thing, almost verbatim. It's very, very strange. It's almost as if, and I'm not saying this, but it's almost as if Blair White saw my video on weaponizing the fringe, or maybe somebody sent it to her. Very, very, very peculiar. And it came out, like I said, a month or 2 afterward. So check it out and compare it to my video. And I guess there's another one, but I haven't found it yet. Somebody told me about it. Very strange. Check it out. Let's get into the video that I planned on getting into in this one. Let's check some stuff out. Okay, this is a video that I found, and it took me a while to find one without the creepy music behind it and all the bullshit. I had to find the original video, so I had to hunt that down. This is a girl who's home alone, okay? And she hears her voice being called. Now, this reminded me of another case entirely that it could have turned into, and hopefully catching it on camera has maybe stopped that in action. But if she still believes it and believes her house is haunted or something, she could turn into another one of these cases. So she's at home and she hears her name. And thank God she was recording, because it's very loud. Let's check it out. And it says her name. Her name is short. It's Mel. All right. I don't know if it's Melanie. I can't remember if it's Melanie or Melody. Melody. That's what it is. Okay. So here we go. Let's check it out.
Okay, first of all, why didn't anyone tell me that if you have yeah?
And you can hear other noises going on in the background there, but they're not what they seem. I'm telling you. So let's listen to it again.
That if you have yeah? Tell me that if you have yeah? didn't anyone tell me that if you have yeah?
And it almost sounds like somebody going downstairs and banging. That's totally typical. All right? Let's let it go.
My bad. So I forgot. I didn't think about it. I'm home alone, and I thought someone called me, and I'm
Okay, so it got recorded. Now, let's go into the audio of this real quick and listen to it. Now, what I did was I removed some of the what I considered reverberation formats that would be reverberating in the room, okay? Now, I'm going to loop it, and it's kind of hard to catch at first, but you'll hear her voice sounds totally normal, but what sounds like Mel sounds completely mechanical. Let's check it out. Mal. But if you listen to her voice, it sounds completely natural. Let's loop it for a minute. Now you can tell that the Mel is completely artificial. It is totally artificial, but it gets way deeper than this. Hang in there. This is going to totally freak you out. I'm going to pull up the whole thing while she's walking around and looking to see what's going on. Let's check that out. After she hears her name, she gets up and looks around, right? So she stays real quiet, she's listening, and then she gets up and walks around and then comes back later and says something. Let's check this out. This is after she says, yeah.
yeah.
Now that is literally a sort of a CB sounding type voice that says, it almost sounds like everybody's left her or something like that, right? Now it's funny because somebody recently said that I play these things over and over and you can't tell what's being said. Dude, anybody with good ears can hear what's being said here. You know, some people have worse ears than others, and I'll play you some more where you can totally hear what's being said in the audio when we get into the paranormal aspect, so hang in there. So the first thing that we hear in there is a male voice that sounds like it says, it sounds like everybody's left her. But this is pulse communication, and you have to remember what it is. It's inflected weird. So then check this out. They also said, how could I know what it says? Well, when you've been listening to this stuff for over a decade, you get used to it, and you understand what it's being said. This is a female voice right here, right after that, and it's not her. And it's something self. Yourself. Then there's another one, which is gibberish, and then another one. So there are more than one set of voices. One voice was able to rise up and become surface audio, and it said Mel, and she caught it. But there were a bunch of different voices going on. And that's a male voice. But do you see how it's all pulses? So let's look at it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 syllables. It's very easy to figure this stuff out. It's not like
it's a big mystery. And this is a great case because it's not recorded with special equipment. And before 2022, I never recorded with special equipment. And a lot of times I still don't. I just used a voice recorder, right? And that's what can catch this stuff, especially surface audio. So, and that sounds just like a speak and spell or something like that. It has that Commodore 64 or a speech modulator tone to it, right? Because we're getting closer and closer to the signal when we pull it up. And those are the steps that it sounds like are going down the stairs. Bump, 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 bump. And then she comes back there and says, my bad, you know, I'm alone and all that. But this reminds me of a case that happened a while back, and she could have been completely fooled into running out of her house in fear. And that case reminds me of the case of Kayelyn Louder. Kayelyn Louder was at home. She began to hear fights going on in the communal apartment complex, party room, banquet hall, whatever you want to call it, community center. She thought there was a fight going on with guns the first night. Then by the second night, she thought people were in her house doing things. And she ended up running out of that apartment, and then later was found in a river, which kind of intersects the whole missing 411 and the voices thing, but these people don't like to talk about that one. So let's listen to part of the 911 call.
Yes, I am.
Were weapons involved or mentioned?
They're not talking or responding. I'll just tell you, I just want to answer that while she's here.
Now the cops lied here and said that she's having an animated conversation with herself. She had a little dog. They also lied about a creek being right behind this big rock. It's not true. It's actually just a trailway that goes back to her apartment right here. There's nothing there. So her dog was being stubborn. She's talking to her dog. So they make these things up as they go. Well, she was having an animated conversation with herself. She's crazy. She did it herself. Not the case. But before I do, I want to say that Kayelyn Louder was a 29 or 30-year-old social worker, completely normal. When these people have the real deal going on, and I don't mean like real mental illness, but when there's something wrong with them, when they're exhibiting signs of symptoms of RF, of pollution, of body poisoning, whatever, the same terminology that Blair White used, even going on as to say that she would want to know if that happened to her, which is exactly what I said in my video about weaponizing the fringe. It's very strange. What I'm getting at is the people who are off, like, let's say Kayelyn Louder, they're always off. They don't become social workers and then just one day just snap. That's a myth, and it's been brought on by this shit. This has subverted our reality. Now, I watch a lot of these shows not to be entertained or because I take them seriously anymore. I used to be in the paranormal, you know, years and years ago. Not so much anymore. You know, 1 out of 1,000 cases I may be interested in, but there's a show on called I Was Possessed, okay? And if you look at the dates, all the dates of these strange things started happening are in 2014 and 2015. And strangely, there was a big boost of all of this stuff happening in 2014 and 2015. And strangely, they're all in Michigan. Most of them are in Michigan and Wisconsin, in the same area, right? And people begin to hear the same type of things. The same type of shit happens. So let's go over that a little bit real quick. And one more thing. The powers that be are trying to strip down everything that may be disinformation or wrong information. They're going down and they're tearing everything down, right? But they're propping up paranormal, UFOs, that kind of thing, ascension, that kind of shit. That's promoted on Netflix, on YouTube, everywhere. Why? Why is this kind of stuff being promoted? You have to think about that. Why is that happening? Now, I don't want to play the actual videos and get myself a copyright strike, right? So I'm going to play you the audio of when people in the home, before something happens, begins to hear voices, sounds, people walking up on the roof, in the attic, in the hallway. Typical shit that I have talked about for years and years and years. And what is being said to them is not so much demonic. Just listen. Let's check it out.
I was walking past my mom's room. Noel was in there watching a movie, and
Okay, Noel is their kid.
they're watching a movie, and I heard him talking to someone. When I tried to listen, I could hear him whispering. I got scared because I knew no one was in the room. I was definitely afraid that somebody was talking to my son, but I didn't see anyone at all. No, it's
So no one was there. No one was talking to his kid. It was a voice talking to his kid. Now listen to what it tells him to do.
Noah told me that this person told him to hit himself and leave marks on his body, like scratch himself, hit himself, hurt himself, and leave marks. I thought there was really someone out there telling my son to hurt himself, and I could not understand why and who would do it.
So, do you really believe that a little kid made that up? That is a nefarious adult or system telling this kid to hurt himself and leave marks. What would that do? That would put the kid in the system. Think about this.
Noah told me that this person told him to hit himself and leave marks on his body, like scratch himself, hit himself, hurt himself.
And then he would have to be taken to the hospital, and they would blame it on the mother and take the child away. Think about this. There is no way that kid made that up. But it gets better. Hang in there. We're getting to the good stuff. Now, this happened to a girl after she was cleaning up after a party, and it began with her. Let's listen to what happens here.
They had just thrown a party, and there was a lot of liquor left over. And a voice popped in my head, and I heard, "You know there's liquor." And I was just thinking, like, where in the world did that come from? And it was like, "Oh, don't you want to try this?" I knew that wasn't my voice. Like, that wasn't me who said that. That was something completely different.
Now, there's liquor. You know there's liquor.
And I heard, "You know there's liquor."
And she knew it wasn't her voice. Come on, man. When are people going to put this together and get past the witch doctor and all the bullshit? It's happening everywhere. And all of these happened in 2014, 2015, right when there was an explosion in all of this. There was a huge explosion in all of these cases during that period. So let's go on to the next one. Now this one's good, because no kid came up with this either. Let's check it out.
And one day, Sean came in and said there was a man that told him that mom and dad didn't love him. He wanted him to jump off the house and that he would catch him.
Now what would that have looked like? Your mom and dad don't love you. It said go up and jump off the roof and I'll catch you. It would have looked like a little kid committed suicide. So suddenly, suicide is a big thing for little kids. They are doing this to more people than you think.
That told him that mom and dad didn't love him. He wanted him to jump off the house and that he would catch him.
This has nothing to do with demonic. Has everything to do with people being hit with voice of God weapons, because the signal is everywhere and anybody can be attacked with it at any time, especially depending on how sensitized you are to it and your hearing. You know, for some of these people that can't hear anything, maybe thank God for that, because if you can't discern things in frequencies, then you're not going to hear anything. Those are the same type of people that listen to music all the time, but they can't pick out a kick drum or a bass or a hidden trumpet in the mix, baritone sax. I remember talking to a friend of mine who was a musician, and I was like, can you hear the baritone sax droning behind the music? And he had been a musician for a long time, and he could not hear that baritone sax droning behind the guitars and the bass, but I could clearly hear it like it was up front. People have different ears, and if you can't make it out, maybe that's better for you. Because a lot of people that are attacked with these types of weapons are musically inclined and can understand the difference in frequency and hear differences in frequency and hear different frequencies within frequencies. Now this is the part that I want to show you. This is from that I Was Possessed show, right? And they're going to show the quote-unquote ghost box evidence of what's going on. And they think it's people talking or ghosts. When you listen to it, it sounds like a voice modulator identical to what I have recorded in the past, especially with the SWAT rat. Now let's check it out.
Ghost box session commencing momentarily.
The ghost box, it picks up their electric voice.
The ghost box picks up their electric voice. It's not a ghost, and it's not an electric voice. Get over it. This has to stop. You're slowing down the progress of the human race, because think about it. From first grade to your senior year, none of you learn anything about electromagnetics, about frequency, about sound. You learn nothing, and that is intentional. So check this out.
Picks up their electric voice.
Why do you keep following me? Tell me what you want.
That's not a human voice. That is a pulse communication, and it sounds like a broken speak and spell, just like I've shown you with the SWAT rat. But without all the noise.
What do you want to do?
Listen. Listen to that. It's a shame that we have to listen through their spooky music, but if you listen to it here, listen. That's not a human. That's not a ghost. That's a voice modulator. Now let's go back to the SWAT rat stuff real quick. But real quick, before we do, this woman says you have to accept that this is happening.
People don't want this to be true, but in the end of the day, you have to accept that this is what is happening.
No, you do not have to accept that this is what is happening. You need to get educated as to what is happening technologically. You don't have to accept that it's ghosts and ghoulies and all this crap. You do not. That is dangerous, what was just said. It's deceptive and it's dangerous. It's coming from a naive place, so I don't necessarily blame her, but it's dangerous. So another time, right before I started doing the original testing with the SWAT rat, and you do not need the SWAT rat. You can do this with a regular digital recorder and still get surface audio, right? So in this case, I was watching a video, a documentary on 9/11, and after I began recording, a voice comes in and it says September 11th. And there's no way that somebody can't hear this. Like, well, I can't understand what they're saying. It's like, really, dude? You can't understand that? Then you gotta clean the shit out of you on 9/11. As I was recording later, a voice comes in and it says September 11th. September 11th. Now I'm not hearing this. This is sitting right at the ambient noise level. When I say that, I meant I'm not hearing this with my own ears. I hear it on the playback of the recording, right? Because it's at the ambient noise level, just underneath. But if you are sensitized, or if you are hearing this, you're going to believe that someone knows what you were watching, or the voice is commenting on what you were doing. The voice says September 11th. It is basically commenting on what I was watching. September 11th. But we know It's obvious what it's saying. So yeah, people that I didn't even expect to say something like that have said, you know, yeah, I don't know what it's saying. Strangely, he knows what it's saying. Well, for one, I'm not listening to it on a phone. I'm listening to it on studio monitors. But these are so clear that you don't even need studio monitors to hear it. You can hear this with a set of earbuds and headphones. There's no noise, you know, serious noise around it where you have to listen to it through noise. It's clear as hell. So, you know, it doesn't work anymore. We're beyond that. And that's what these people are hearing. They've turned on these ghost boxes and they catch the same shit that sounds like the same voices. If we go back and listen to it, it's the same thing. Like if you listen to here, it's the same kind of artificial voice, saying the same types of things.
What do you want to do?
It's just dirtier and not as clear because I'm honing in what I've devised is honed in on the loudest voice in the room, and it amplifies that. It's the same kind of voice that said September 11th. So come on. It's not paranormal. This is a system, and it's surveilling what is going on. And sure, if it wants to mess with people, it can mess with people, but that is what's going on. It is not paranormal. But I like to watch these kind of shows because it keeps my thumb on the pulse of what is going on. And that's important. It is all the same thing. When these people have the real deal going on, and I don't mean like real mental illness, but when there's something wrong with them, when they're exhibiting signs of symptoms of RF, of pollution, of body poisoning, whatever, the same terminology that Blair White used, even going on as to say that she would want to know if that happened to her, which is exactly what I said in my video about weaponizing the fringe. It's very strange. But what I'm getting at is the people who are off, they're always off. They don't become social workers and then just one day just snap. That's a myth, and it's been brought on by this shit. This has subverted our reality. So, you know, what do we know for sure? We know for sure that these are mechanical voices. They're not real. When they reverberate around the room, they sound more human. When you get to the recording and start getting to the signals and the artificial formants that make the voices and the pulses, that's when you get into the fact that they are not real. And the paranormal shows are part of the propaganda arm of pushing this and hiding it. Otherwise, they would be totally against this type of irrational thinking, right? For the most part, they're anti-God, anti-everything from a very atheist point of view. So how are paranormal shows not dangerous as far as the powers that be, the people who are controlling the media and what's out there? Why aren't they going after these shows and tearing them down? They're promoting them, just like they're promoting many other things that cause a smoke screen or a cover for other things that are going on. And that's just the way it is. It's a surveillance system. It's a weaponized surveillance system. And when people hear it, they believe that they're under surveillance. You know, it's totally different than what it used to be. Now, if you watch that show, I Was Possessed. It's pretty comical because all of the cases that happened between 2013, 2014, 2015, which most of them do, all of the symptoms are identical. It starts with scratching in the walls. It starts with thumps, bumps, big bangs, typical shit. Sounds like somebody's walking on the roof. They can hear conversations coming from the other room or music, and when they walk in there, it's not there. And then it progresses from that point on. That's the sensitization process. Alright? However, they put one case that was like back in the 70s, I believe, to, make you believe that this was happening a long time ago too, in the same way. And there were cases of this, it just wasn't widespread. And that was technology too. But that took an operation. It's completely different than it is now. But what I'm getting at here is the 70s case of the woman who became possessed, or whatever you want to call it, her symptoms are completely different from the ones that took place in 2014. There were no voices, there were no sounds. It was more like The Exorcist, which was a 70s phenomena. And with that said, all of her symptoms lined up with The Exorcist, where all of these line up with the new artificial haunting BS. And you have to pay attention to that. You also have to pay attention to what the people say happens and what they show in the actual show. I would love to interview these people and really get down to it and say, hey, what happened that they didn't put in the show? Because they keep a lot of that stuff out. But yeah, the 70s one, the symptoms were completely different than what happens later on to the 2013, 2014, 2015 period, but most all of them took place in 2014 in the same region. So that is something to think about. And again, these all happened and all the exorcisms took place in 2014, 2015, right around the same time that Kayelyn Louder went missing. There was a lot of this going on in 2014, a huge explosion of this kind of stuff. I mean, you talk to umpteen people and their bizarre life that went from totally normal to totally messed up happened in 2014. Including Michael Cravey, who happened to, as they say, lose his mind and for no reason just start stabbing people and cackling about it. Just ridiculous stories. Another strange thing that these people have to deal with in the haunting cases was almost every one of them came down with a rash, some weird skin issue. It would look like scratches, but, whatever. Some of them had been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, Crohn's, Morgellons. All of those are the same disease that are giving people different symptoms. Just like the flu, when someone has the flu, they have different symptoms. Crohn's disease, Lyme disease, Morgellons, all of this stuff that makes people hypersensitive to this kind of stuff, all of them are the same disease. And it's becoming more and more apparent over time that they're the same thing, they're just different symptoms of the same thing. And it's crazy that, these people are tricked into believing this, and they see scratch marks or burns, when the reality is you get these infections that are sensitive to radio frequency, and the radio frequency riles up what's within their skin, right? And all of a sudden they've got these breakouts because the radio frequency is causing this stuff to act up, to flare up. And that's not hard to figure out. So you could have 3 lines on your body that show up due to radio frequency, and you wake up and you think you have demon scratches on you, and you have something else. Am I telling you that the paranormal doesn't exist? No. But I'm telling you that I've studied this long enough and seen it all, to where I can tell you that that is what it is. All these things are the same. But going back, the good news is that this woman, young woman, who caught this, saying her name, and then all the noises in between that gives us all the cues and the clues that we need to figure it out, was caught, right?
Okay, first of all, why didn't anyone tell me that if you have... Yeah?
And I mean, it's obvious. She caught it. The bad news is that it's going to be turned into a paranormal weapon. They do this with everything. You catch this, it's paranormal. You catch a military experiment or something going on, and it's a UFO. And then they have these numbers for you to call if you saw it. What do you think those are for? Hey, did that experiment in Nebraska work? Let's find out. So we got this number for you to call. Well, 60, 70 people called. Well, yeah, it was a total success, right? And you called in to verify it. You called the enemy. They did the same thing with Skinwalker Ranch. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but the original owner of Skinwalker Ranch never believed it was ghoulies, goblins, aliens, any of that. He always believed that it was the government experimenting with higher technology on his property. And that's just the way it was. And he was pissed off about it. But they don't let that out because the mystery sells a lot more than the reality. People have no idea what's going on. And when you talk to these paranormal investigators, talk to them. And I've talked to many. And I'll ask them, so, what do you know about ELF? Not in a mean way. What do you know about ELF and the effect on the body? And they'll start talking about EMF. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about ELF. And do you know that, for example, 2-3 high frequencies hit together can create ELF. It will create a secondary frequency. I'm trying to keep this street. ELF can cause tinnitus. All these people were suffering from tinnitus, from all these different things. And this is how they keep this stuff hidden. They keep it hidden within the paranormal. They keep it hidden within the UFO community, all of this stuff. And they are really putting the cap on the Death Star now. Once they have this done, they can create illusions, and if you tell your neighbor that wasn't real, they'll laugh at you. They're going to be laughing at you, going, wow, I just saw this thing come up and this UFO come up and blow something up. And you will totally believe it. And that's what they're doing to people. They're doing it everywhere. And this is helping the mental health narrative get pushed, that it's happening to everybody. They're hearing voices. But it's great when people record it. So I've got a lot more to make videos about. This just happened, and it kind of sidetracked me because I was making a video about something that I had recorded, but I like to use other people's recordings more. Lastly, I'm not going to be promoting other channels on this channel anymore. Once in a while I would do that, and I would say that and say, hey, you should go check out this or that. I'm not going to be doing that until they're well vetted. But I have recently done an interview, and I want to point you to that interview. I'll link it below. I did an interview with a couple, and their channel is called Awaken Video, and the title of the video is Awaken Video, Weaponized Surveillance in Every Home. And they go through a lot, and they go through it in detail, and it's something that you should check out. I'm going to try to catch up on everything, but I've needed a break, and I've been doing other stuff. But check out this interview. It goes into quite a bit, and it's relatively important. They go through a lot, and they really get what they're talking about. And that is it for now. Look out for Charlie.
Come on, do Nazi stuff.
Yeah, why won't he do the Nazi stuff?
Look out for Charlie.